Picture this. It's New Year's Day, 1978. A brand new, state-of-the-art jumbo jet takes off into the night, and then, just moments later, it's gone. No mayday call, no warning, nothing. Just silence. This is the incredible and tragic story of Air India Flight 855 and the fatal illusion that doomed it from the start.
On board that plane, 213 people. Families coming home from vacation, crew members just starting another shift. Every single one of them believing, of course, that they were going to land safely.
And tragically, not a single person survived. The loss was total, absolute. And that, you can imagine, only made the mystery deeper for the investigators who had to figure this out. So this becomes the big question, right? How could a brand new Boeing 747 just fall out of the sky? This wasn't some old rickety plane. The weather was fine. So what went wrong? Let's dig in and piece this puzzle together. Okay, so to really get what went so horribly wrong, we have to start with how right everything seemed at first. The whole story kicks off on what should have been a totally normal, completely unremarkable evening. So let's set the scene. We're talking January 1st, 1978. The plane itself is this gorgeous Boeing 747. They even nicknamed it the Emperor Ashoka. A real point of pride. It's leaving Mumbai, headed for Dubai, a totally standard international flight. On paper, absolutely nothing was out of the ordinary. But, as investigators would soon find out, the line between a normal flight and an absolute catastrophe, well, in aviation, it can be terrifyingly thin. Let's take a look at the Emperor's final tragic moments. The takeoff was perfect. The Emperor Ashoka lifted off without a single issue. It climbed nice and steady, got up to about 4,000 feet. And from inside that cockpit, flying out over the dark ocean, everything would have seemed completely fine. And then, just about a minute into the flight, something went terribly, terribly wrong. Out of nowhere, this massive 747 just starts banking sharply to the right, and it's a move that makes absolutely zero sense for that phase of flight. And before the crew could even really process what was happening, that turn became a dive. The plane just plunged straight into the Arabian Sea, shockingly close to the coast. And then it was just gone from radar. Forever. So in the aftermath, you've got investigators with this huge puzzle on their hands. A modern jet doesn't just drop from the sky. They were thinking, was it a bomb? Did the plane just fall apart in midair? They combed through the wreckage, and the answer they found was, in a way, much simpler and a whole lot scarier. Okay, so to really wrap your head around this crash, you need to know about one single critical instrument. It's called the attitude indicator, or AI. The easiest way to think about it is like an artificial horizon for the pilot. When it's dark outside or you're in the clouds, this little thing is the only thing telling you which way is up. It is, quite literally, their sense of balance. The investigation eventually ruled it out. It wasn't a bomb, it wasn't the weather. The fatal flaw wasn't in the engines, it wasn't in the wings. No, it was right there in front of the pilots, on the instrument panel, inside the cockpit.
And this, right here, brings us to the very heart of this tragedy. See, this wasn't just about a broken piece of equipment. It was about a broken sense of reality. It's this terrifying fight between what a pilot feels and what the technology, which is supposed to help, is telling them.
And this is where it all goes wrong. The captain's main attitude indicator, it was broken. It was feeding him a complete lie, telling him the plane was in a sharp right bank. But here's the crazy part. Inches away, the co-pilot's instrument, which was working perfectly, was showing the truth. The wings were level. This situation triggers something called spatial disorientation, and it is every pilot's nightmare. See, without being able to see the real horizon, the fluid in your inner ear, the thing that gives you your sense of balance, it becomes totally unreliable. You literally can't tell which way is up. In that moment, a pilot is trained to do one thing: trust your instruments. But for the captain of Flight 855, that trust was the deadliest mistake he could make. So you can see this tragic chain of events, like a series of dominoes falling. It all starts with one little instrument failure. That failure causes the pilot to become completely disoriented. He thinks he's saving the plane, so he makes a move, but it's the exact wrong move. He's trying to level the wings, but what he's actually doing is putting the plane into the very same dangerous bank that his broken instrument was showing him. It's this horrifying feedback loop, and they just ran out of sky before they could break it.
You know, as awful as any aviation disaster is, they almost always leave behind a legacy, lessons that get learned the hard way. The loss of Flight 855 was absolutely no exception. In fact, it led to some really critical changes in cockpits all over the world, changes that frankly have made flying safer for every single one of us today.
And the solution really came down to two things: teamwork and communication. Nowadays, pilots are drilled over and over again to constantly cross-check their instruments against the co-pilot's instruments, against the backup gauges, but maybe even more important is something called Crew Resource Management, or CRM. It basically empowers everyone in the cockpit to speak up and challenge the captain if they see something that doesn't look right. The idea is to break that chain of disaster before it can even really start.
The official report on the crash was crystal clear. It really all boiled down to one simple, vital action: cross-checking. A single glance over at the co-pilot's working instrument, and this whole tragedy could have been avoided. Everyone on board could have been saved.
So the story of Flight 855 leaves us with a pretty heavy question, and it's one that feels more relevant today than ever before. We live in a world that's just flooded with data, with algorithms, with automated systems telling us what to do. So what happens when our technology gives us conflicting signals? How do we know what to trust? And what are the consequences when we choose to trust the wrong one?